Okay, there's a big BC Tech Summit underway today. The Premier was one of the keynote speakers. And it's interesting because you pointed this out yesterday.
Yeah.
It's been just over a year now since the Premier announced there was going to be computer coding in the school curriculum.
We want every child in British Columbia who goes to a public or an independent school to learn to be a coder by the time they are in grade 6. And that means they will speak that universal language of coding, which will serve them into the future in all the jobs we can't even imagine today.
Oh my goodness! In grade 6, I still don't even really understand what coding is all about right now.
Well, this is where the jobs are going to be going forward. So I guess they wanted to add this to the curriculum, so kids can either choose to learn it, choose not to learn it. But having just even a basics in coding could probably take you anywhere you want to be.
So this mandatory coding program is supposed to be rolled out this year. We wondered, how is that going? So our next guest is Jon Hamlin. He's a computer science teacher at Pine Tree Secondary in Coquitlam. He's also the co-author of the curriculum for K-9 students. And he is the president of the Computer Using Educators of BC Group for Technology
That's a busy
Teachers.
guy.
My goodness. Good afternoon, Jon.
Hey, Jon.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. So initially, BC teachers were kind of caught off guard by this announcement about coding, do you think?
That's for sure. That's a real understatement. In fact, even I was caught off guard because the announcement came so abruptly, and it was, it was important to have that announcement made, but it came before, all the key stakeholders could really be notified what was happening. So it caused a ripple effect of uncertainty and concern amongst a lot of people that didn't have any kind of heads up that this was on the horizon.
What were the concerns?
Well, the concerns were that, saying that coding is something that all kids are going to do. A lot of people don't really understand what coding is. And to tell someone that all of a sudden they need to now start teaching coding, to some teachers that could be the same as teaching or as saying that they need to become, teaching rocket science or something like that, because it's such a foreign concept. And, it's something that was quite alien to a lot of people. So it's definitely been a bit of a steep learning curve, to say the least.
I'm one of those people who does not know what coding really is. What's the most simplistic way to describe it?
Can you explain it to Linda like she's 5?
Please.
Yes, absolutely. So essentially, in fact, even using the term coding, especially regarding the K through grade 5, 6 range, is actually a bit of a misnomer. And our intention behind the curriculum was to build in some awareness around computational thinking, which is actually the precursor to coding. So unfortunately, when the Premier had that press conference, she probably got her words a little bit mixed up and used the term coding, which wasn't really accurate, in fact. Computational thinking is something that you probably, Linda, you already do all the time. It could be something as simple as following a recipe. Following a series of ordered steps to achieve a certain outcome. Deconstructing a problem is a big part of computational thinking. If you have a problem that's complex with many facets, you need to kind of break those down and start looking at those with a smaller microscope and, solving one little piece of the problem at a time. And a lot of teachers are doing those, and a lot of things like that occur already within existing curriculum. So, part of the thing that I've been doing over the last year is going around the province and talking to teachers and helping them to identify areas where that computational thinking exists already within their curriculum, and then teach them how that connects to computer programming, which students will be doing eventually down the road when they're in grade 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. So in grade 6, they actually get a full course in coding?
Yeah, so grade 6, there'll be something called the ADST, which is Applied Design Skills and Technologies, and that's the curricular area that this falls under. And students in grade 6 will have an aspect of coding, which could be as simple as using a block-based programming language like Scratch, which is a very easy-to-use drag-and-drop interface. So, we say coding, and we get this impression of people hunkered over a terminal writing copious lines of code, and that's not the case. That's not the intention for kids at that age. That can come later on. But to get their feet wet, to get them introduced to the concept, we have lots of different tools that are very easy to use and very a low entry point for students. So it's not as big of a jump as it sounds.
If students take an interest in this and they pick it up as something they want to learn, what sort of jobs could they be walking into in the future once they graduate high school, maybe do a little bit of college? What are the jobs that we need to fill with this particular skill?
Well, that's the really interesting thing is that coding is in every single industry you could possibly imagine. And even the core traditional sectors that BC has really has been built on require coders in some capacity or not. So really, any sector you can imagine requires people that have computer programming skills. So it's innumerable. There'd be a shorter list of what sectors don't require that, actually.
And BC, we have the Premier and many others really trying to create an environment here where we want to become the tech hub. How are we doing at that so far?
Well, we're certainly on the right track. You know, you've got a great set of new neighbors that moved in last spring with the Microsoft the campus and the headquarters just down from you there. And that's certainly set a precedent. With that type of investment into the infrastructure, Microsoft's doing great things, developing networks and relationships. And once a flagship organization like that arrives, it kind of heralds the beginning of a new era here in British Columbia. And I certainly think that we're poised. Out here in Coquitlam, we've worked frequently with a group called Finger Foods, and they're upstart app development studio, and they're now developing some of the first apps for the HoloLens. So even small outfits, you know, in outlying areas like where I am, are doing some tremendous things, some really huge things out there in the world. So I think, you know, like you said, we really just hit the tip of the iceberg here, and BC's just absolutely booming. There are so many opportunities, and even my own students, because I teach secondary grade 11, 12, so my students frequently are heading off into the workforce shortly after they leave my school. And I've got, you know, alumni from Pine Tree that are working in, you know, all around the planet, all around the world. And a lot of them are staying in British Columbia now because of the opportunities here, which is fantastic.
How interested are BC kids in coding?
Well, that's a good point. I think that's another distinction where we need to make sure we clarify the difference between actual coding and then all of these different sort of playing around with code type of games and different types of software applications we have, because a lot of kids are interested in the basic aspects of it, like the drag and drop interfaces. It's fun. You can make a game relatively easily, but to actually become a computer programmer is an entirely different beast. And that's a very challenging, difficult process, which takes years of work. So I think there's a lot of interest for the introductory and the beginner stuff, the easy to make game type things. There's a huge appetite for that.
And John, I would even imagine in your travels, you've probably even met kids that are sort of taking this on under their own steam in their own private time to sort of learn how to code and make little things on their iPads. Yeah?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the great thing about that is the accessibility of it. So, you know, even when I've been up north in more rural communities, I've seen the most amazing and most innovative things happening. And teachers and students that have access to even the smallest amounts of technology are creating some awe-inspiring, you know, creations and inventions. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, and my final question, is there enough technology in the classroom at BC currently?
Well, that's a huge can of worms to open up, because there's huge discrepancies from school to school, from district to district. There's these have and have not schools. You know, there's schools on the west side of Vancouver where a parent will come in and buy an entire school set of iPads, whereas, you know, schools on the other side of town are having a hard time making sure their students arrive fed in the morning. So, I certainly think there is much need for more investment in technology. And that being said, though, learning the basics of computational thinking don't require a lot of technology. A lot of those things, like the recipes and the series of steps and instructions and things, those can be done offline. And that's something that's important to communicate to teachers as well, because to develop the computational thinking tools, you don't need to be in front of a computer. And in fact, you might be better off not being in front of a computer in task.
Some teachers like you are consistent adult learners. Did some teachers have a fair idea what this was because they went and looked it up?
Yeah, a lot of them did. And, you know, we've been working really hard as well to try and provide resources and tools for teachers to access as well. We've built a website called CUEBC.ca, which is a resource any teacher in the province can access, which connects coding resources to BC's new curriculum. And it also has a teaching computational thinking course as well, so teachers can familiarize themselves with those key concepts and how they connect to existing things they're doing in their classroom.
All right. Jon Hamlin is a computer science, it's a long list here, a computer science teacher at Pine Tree Secondary in Coquitlam, co-author of the curriculum for K-9 students, president of the Computer Using Educators of BC Group for Technology Teachers. Anything else I left out? Also, awesome dad, it says on your Twitter.
Exactly. There you go.
Jon, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you both for your interest. it. Have a
Thanks,
great
John.
day.
Yeah, so there you go. It's that's the thing, is it all comes down to what language is used by the premier in making those announcements, because that using one different word can maybe set off a bit of a chain reaction.
Well, maybe like me, maybe the premier didn't fully understand what coding was either.
Do you get it now?
Yeah,
Right.
sort of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so this is what we're going to do. Coding would be something I would imagine you would need if you're an astronaut. You must need to know how to do a little bit of computer
Probably.
stuff.